On September 27, 2023, in an upscale neighborhood of Atlanta, Georgia, the bodies of two people were found in the pool of a private villa. The events that led to this tragedy began much earlier, from the moment when the life of an ordinary man slowly began to fall apart. Cody Humphrey was 29 years old and delivered food on a beat-up moped through the streets of Atlanta. Every day from 10 in the morning until 10 at night, he shuttled between cheap eateries and apartment buildings, earning just enough money to pay his rent. His Uber Eats uniform, a green jacket and baseball cap, had long since lost its freshness. The apartment he shared with his wife, Lisa, was on the outskirts of town, in a neighborhood where no one stayed longer than necessary. 2 years ago, when they got married, Cody promised Lisa a better life. He promised it was temporary, that he would find a decent job, that they would move to a decent place. But the temporary dragged on, and the promises turned out to be empty words. Lisa Humphrey worked as a manager in a cosmetics store in a shopping mall. She was 27, a beautiful woman with dark skin and expressive eyes, accustomed to receiving attention from men. In recent months, she had increasingly looked at her husband with disappointment. She saw her friends living in decent houses, driving cars instead of taking public transportation, and being able to afford vacations. Meanwhile, she was stuck in a cramped apartment with a husband who was in debt and had no prospects. On the evening of September 24th, Cody came home tired and hungry. It had been a tough shift. 14 hours on the road, 3 flat tires, 1 customer who yelled at him for being 5 minutes late. He climbed the creaky stairs to the 3rd floor and opened the door to his apartment. Women's voices and laughter came from the living room. Lisa was not home alone. Cody walked into the narrow hallway and saw his wife and her friend Emma Brownlee sitting on the worn sofa with glasses of wine. Emma worked as a hairdresser in a beauty salon and always acted as if she were a cut above everyone else. She never hid her contempt for Cody. "Ah, the courier is back," Emma said, without even turning her head in his direction. "Lisa, I thought you said he was working late today." Cody walked silently into the kitchen and opened the refrigerator. It was empty, except for half a package of cheese and some leftover yogurt. He leaned wearily against the table, feeling the ache in his back muscles. "Cody?" Lisa called to him. "Emma and I were discussing plans for the weekend. There's going to be a party at her friend's place." "Uh-huh," he muttered, not really listening. "I'm telling Lisa she needs to get out more," Emma continued, raising her voice so he could hear. "Meet some normal people who are actually worth knowing. She can't stay in this hole forever." Cody froze. He left the kitchen and stood in the doorway of the living room, looking at his wife's friend. "Emma, do you have a memory problem? We've already discussed that you should keep your opinions to yourself when you come to my house." Emma smirked and took a sip from her glass. "Your house? Cody, honey, this is a rental apartment that you can barely afford. And I'm just telling the truth. Lisa deserves better than a loser who delivers burgers in a clunker." "That's enough," Cody said quietly, feeling anger boiling up inside him. "Get out of here. Now." "Cody, calm down," Lisa interjected, getting up from the couch. She's just what?" Cody interrupted her. "She comes here and insults me in my own home, and you let her do that?" Emma got up, grabbed her purse, and looked at Lisa. "I'll go, but think about what I said. You're young, beautiful. You don't need to waste your life on a man who will never pull you out of this mess." She walked past Cody to the door, giving him a contemptuous look. The door slammed shut, and a heavy silence hung in the apartment. Lisa stood in the middle of the living room, her arms wrapped around herself. Cody looked at her, waiting for her to say something in his defense, to take his side. But Lisa lowered her eyes. "She's not right about everything," Lisa said quietly. "But in some ways she's right, Cody. We've been living like this for 2 years. Nothing changes. You promised that things would be different." Cody felt something tighten in his chest. I'm trying. You know I'm trying. Trying? Lisa looked up at him, and he saw the weariness in her eyes. Cody, I don't know how much longer I can live like this. I'm tired of counting every dollar, tired of riding the bus, tired of pretending to people that everything is fine. She walked past him into the bedroom and closed the door. Cody was left alone in the living room, staring at the empty glasses on the table. He knew she was right. He was a failure. He had nothing to offer her. And every day, that realization weighed heavier and heavier on him. The next day, Cody left for work earlier than usual. It was a gray and muggy morning. He arrived at the delivery service base, where a group of couriers had already gathered, waiting for their orders to be distributed. Glenn Tucker, the logistics manager, stood at the counter with a tablet in his hands. He was 47 years old, a large man with a crew cut and a perpetually dissatisfied expression on his face. He managed the couriers like a taskmaster, enjoying his power over the people who depended on him. "Humphrey," Tucker barked, without even looking up from his tablet. "Come here." Cody approached, trying not to show his irritation. 3 complaints about you yesterday. 3. 1 for being late, 2 for the food being cold. Do you even understand that customers pay for service? I wasn't late, Cody tried to explain. There was traffic all along the route and… I don't care about your traffic, Tucker interrupted, raising his voice so that the other couriers turned around. You have to plan your time. You're a slug, Humphrey. A useless slug who can't even deliver food on time. I'm already thinking about replacing you with someone who really wants to work. Cody clenched his fists, but said nothing. He couldn't afford to lose this job, even one as humiliating as this. Got it? Tucker continued. 1 more complaint and you're out. Now take your orders and get going. Cody took the list of addresses and went out onto the street. His hands trembled with anger and humiliation. He spent the whole day on the road, trying not to think about what had happened that morning and the night before. But the thoughts kept coming back. He came home late that evening. Lisa was already home, sitting on the couch with her phone in her hands. Cody threw his keys on the table and went to the bathroom. When he returned, Lisa was still looking at the screen, but her expression was tense. Is something wrong? Cody asked as he walked past her. Lisa flinched and quickly turned off her phone screen. No, everything's fine. Cody stopped. Lisa, I saw you looking at your phone. What's there? Nothing. She tried to smile, but it came out forced. Just messages. Cody moved closer. Show me. Cody, don't start. It's just… Show me your phone. His voice became harsher. Lisa sighed and handed him her phone. The screen showed an open Instagram message from an unknown account. The text was simple. I miss you. When will we see each other? Cody felt a chill spread through his body. Who is it? I don't know, Lisa replied quickly, taking the phone back. Some jerk who's been messaging me for weeks. I blocked him, but he keeps creating new accounts and messaging me. I'm tired of it. What does he want? How should I know? Her voice was irritated. It's the internet, Cody. It's full of weird people. He probably saw my photos and decided he had the right to write me all kinds of nonsense. Did you reply to him? Lisa looked at him indignantly. Of course not. Are you serious? I block him every time he shows up. I don't want anything to do with him. Cody was silent, looking at her. He wanted to believe her. He wanted to believe that it was really just some stranger from the internet. But something inside him whispered that it wasn't that simple. I don't have anyone, Cody, Lisa said more quietly, looking him in the eyes. I'm your wife. Yes, we're going through a difficult time right now, but that doesn't mean I'm cheating on you. I'm not like that. She got up and went into the bedroom, leaving him alone. Cody sank down onto the sofa and covered his face with his hands. Doubts gnawed at him from within. He didn't know what to believe. He didn't know if he could trust his wife's words, and that uncertainty was the worst part. Cody spent the next 2 days in a constant state of tension. His doubts gave him no peace. He tried to catch his wife in a lie, looking for signs of infidelity in her every word, in her every glance. But Lisa behaved as usual. She left for work in the morning, came home in the evening, ate dinner in silence, watched TV, and went to bed. A wall of alienation hung between them, growing higher with each passing day. On Friday evening, Cody decided to meet up with Patrick Rhodes, his only friend, whom he had met at community college 10 years ago. Patrick worked as a mechanic in a car repair shop on the other side of town. He was 2 years older than Cody, always confident, and seemed to be a man whose life was more or less in order. He had his own small apartment, an old but reliable pickup truck, and a job that provided a steady income. They met at a bar on the outskirts of town, a cheap place with worn tables and dim lighting where workers came to drink after their shift. Cody was sitting at a table in the corner when Patrick entered the room, looked around, and headed toward him. He was a tall guy with broad shoulders, wearing a work jacket with oil stains on the sleeves. "Long time no see," Patrick said, sinking into a chair opposite him. "You look like you've been hit by a truck." Cody tried to smile, but it didn't work. "Pretty much." They ordered beer and drank in silence for a few minutes. Patrick studied his friend's face, waiting for him to speak. Finally, Cody put down his glass and sighed heavily. "I'm having problems with Lisa." "What kind of problems?" "I think she's seeing someone else," Cody said quietly, but each word came with difficulty. "I'm not sure, but there are signs. She's become cold and distant. She's been getting strange messages on her phone. She says it's some fan from the internet, but I don't know if I believe her." Patrick frowned and took a sip from his glass. "Have you asked her directly?" "I have. She denies everything. She swears there's nothing going on. But I can sense it, Patrick. I can sense that she's lying." "Maybe you're just getting yourself worked up," Patrick suggested cautiously. "I know you're going through a difficult time right now. Maybe she's just tired of it all, and you're mistaking her fatigue for something else?" "No," Cody shook his head. "It's not just fatigue. I know my wife. Something has changed, and I can't shake the feeling that she's hiding something from me." Patrick paused, thinking about what he had heard. Then he leaned closer. "Listen, even if she's having thoughts about someone else, that doesn't mean all is lost. Maybe you need to show her that you still care about her. When was the last time you did something together? Went anywhere? When was the last time you gave her something just because?" Cody thought about it. When was the last time? A month ago? 2? Their life had become a routine. Work, home, bills, exhaustion. No dates, no gifts, no surprises. "It's been a while," he admitted. "You see," Patrick leaned back in his chair, "women want attention. They want to feel special. If you've stopped showing her that she's important to you, don't be surprised when she starts looking around. Try to win her back. Buy her flowers, some kind of gift. Tell her you love her. Remind her why she married you." Cody listened, and an idea began to form in his head. Maybe Patrick was right. Maybe he was too focused on his own problems and forgot that his wife also needed attention and care. Maybe he just needed to try harder. "Do you think that will help?" "I don't know," Patrick replied honestly. "But it certainly won't make things worse. Give it a try. Show her that you're willing to change, that you want to make your life better. Maybe she'll believe you and give you another chance." They sat in the bar for another hour, talking about work, life, everything except the main thing. When Cody left the bar, it was already dark. He rode home on his moped, thinking about his friend's words. By the time he parked outside his house, he had made up his mind. He would try. He would try to get back what they once had. The next morning, Saturday, Cody woke up before Lisa. He quietly got dressed and left the apartment, trying not to wake his wife. It was cool outside, but the sun was already rising above the horizon. Cody drove to the city center, where there was a flower shop that opened early in the morning. He chose a bouquet of red roses, 12, as many as he could afford. Then he stopped by a jewelry store and bought a small silver bracelet. It wasn't expensive, but it was beautiful and elegant. He spent almost all the money he had set aside to pay the bills, but now it didn't seem to matter. When he returned home, Lisa was already awake and sitting in the kitchen with a cup of coffee. She looked up in surprise when he walked in with the bouquet in his hands. "Cody? What's this?" "This is for you," he said, handing her the flowers and the small box with the bracelet. "I wanted to say, I'm sorry. I'm sorry things turned out this way, that we're not living the life we dreamed of. But I want you to know that I love you, and I'm not going to give up." Lisa took the flowers, her face softening. She opened the box and saw the bracelet. "Cody, this is beautiful, but you shouldn't have spent the money. I don't care about money," he interrupted. "You're important to me. We're important to me. I know I've been a bad husband lately. I know I've disappointed you, but I promise that everything will change. I'll find a better job. We'll move to a normal place. I'll do everything to make you happy." Lisa was silent, looking at the flowers in her hands. Then she looked up at him, tears glistening in her eyes. "You've said that before, Cody. I know. But this time I'll really do things differently. Give me a chance. Please." She stood up and hugged him. Cody felt the tension that had been building up inside him over the last few days ease a little. Maybe things could still be fixed. Maybe they could still be happy. The rest of the day passed quietly. They had breakfast together, then went for a walk around town, the first time in several months. They went shopping, looked at store windows, and talked about this and that. Lisa seemed more relaxed than usual. She smiled, took his hand, and for a few hours, Cody allowed himself to believe that everything would be all right. In the evening, they returned home. Lisa put the flowers in a vase and put on her bracelet. Cody sat on the sofa and watched her, feeling something like hope, but that hope was fragile, like thin glass, ready to shatter at the slightest touch. On Sunday evening, everything changed. Lisa called Emma and invited her over. Cody was sitting in the kitchen sorting through the electricity bills when he heard the doorbell ring. Emma entered the apartment with her usual air of superiority, glancing briefly at Cody. "Hi, loser," she said, walking past him into the living room. Cody clenched his teeth but said nothing. He didn't want to start another fight. He didn't want to ruin the fragile truce that had been established between him and Lisa. He stayed in the kitchen, pretending to be busy with the papers, but in reality, he was listening to the conversation in the living room. "He bought you flowers?" Emma's voice was full of skepticism. "And a bracelet? Lisa, you do realize that this is just a desperate attempt to keep you?" "Maybe he really wants to change," Lisa replied more quietly. "Change?" Emma snorted. "People don't change, especially people like him. He'll always be a moped courier who can barely make ends meet. Do you really want to spend the rest of your life in this dump?" "I don't know." Lisa's voice sounded uncertain. "I just don't know." "You do know," Emma insisted. "You're just afraid to admit it. You have options, Lisa. Much better options. Men who can give you a normal life, who won't make you live in poverty." Cody froze, listening. His heart was beating so loudly that he was afraid it would be heard. "Who are you talking about?" Lisa asked. "You know who." Emma's voice took on a conspiratorial tone. "The man who writes to you. He's not just an admirer from the internet, is he?" Pause. A long, heavy pause. "Emma, I don't want to talk about it." "Why? Because you're afraid to admit the truth?" "Lisa, I'm your friend. I want you to be happy. And I can see that you're happy with this man. Much happier than you are with Cody." "Shut up," Lisa whispered. "He can hear you." "Let him hear." Emma raised her voice. "Let him know the truth, that he's not the one for you, that there are better men, richer men, more successful men, men who can give you the life you dream of." Cody sat in the kitchen, his fists clenched so tightly that his nails dug into his palms. Blood pounded in his temples. Anger boiled inside him, but he couldn't move. He couldn't burst into the living room and make a scene. He had to know. He had to hear everything. "Go away," Lisa finally said. "Emma, please go away. I don't want to discuss this." "Okay." Emma's voice grew colder. "But you can't run from the truth forever. Sooner or later, you'll have to make a choice. And I hope you choose wisely." Cody heard footsteps, the sound of a door opening, then silence. He sat in the kitchen for a few more minutes, trying to calm down. When he finally stepped into the hallway, Lisa was standing by the living room window, looking out at the street. "She's gone," Lisa said without turning around. "I heard," Cody said quietly. Lisa turned sharply. Her face was guilty. "What did you hear?" "Enough." They stood there, looking at each other. There was so much unspoken between them, so much hurt and suspicion, that the air seemed heavy. "Cody, it's not what you think," Lisa began. "Then what is it?" His voice was calm but cold. "What were you talking about? Who is this man who writes to you? That fan from the internet?" "I don't want to talk about it." "But I want to." Cody took a step forward. "I'm your husband. I have a right to know what's going on." "Nothing's going on," Lisa shouted. "Emma's just trying to break us up. She always does that. She's jealous, you know. Jealous that I have you, and she has no one." Cody didn't believe a word she said. He saw the lie in her eyes, heard it in her voice. "I'm not stupid, Lisa." She walked past him into the bedroom and closed the door. Cody was left alone in the living room, feeling the last remnants of hope crumble to dust. The flowers he had bought stood in a vase on the table. They had already begun to wilt. On Monday morning, Cody made a decision. He couldn't live in uncertainty any longer. He had to find out the truth. He called work and said he was sick, a cold, a fever. Glenn Tucker grumbled something into the phone but gave him the day off. Cody waited until Lisa left for work, then took the keys to his moped and followed her. He kept his distance, following the bus his wife was riding. She got off at the stop near the shopping center and headed for the store where she worked. Cody parked nearby and waited. He spent the whole day watching the store entrance. Lisa went out for lunch, bought a sandwich at a cafe, sat on a bench reading something on her phone. Nothing suspicious. In the evening, she finished work and drove home. Cody followed her, feeling like an idiot. Maybe he really was winding himself up. Maybe Patrick was right, and he was just being paranoid. On Tuesday, he did the same thing again. He called work again, followed his wife again. Again, nothing. Lisa worked, met Emma at a cafe after work, then drove home. A normal day. No secret meetings, no suspicious phone calls. On Wednesday morning, as Cody was about to take another day off, Glenn Tucker called him. His boss's voice was full of rage. "Humphrey, what the hell are you doing?" "What do you mean?" Cody tried to remain calm. "Don't play dumb. I saw you in town yesterday afternoon, sitting in your old car near the mall, perfectly healthy." Cody felt his stomach clench. "Shut up," Tucker barked. "You lied to me. You took sick leave to fool around in town. This is your last warning, Humphrey. Your last. If you don't show up for work tomorrow, don't even bother coming back. I'll find someone who actually wants to work, not cheat me." The phone hung up. Cody put down the phone and closed his eyes. He had backed himself into a corner. If he didn't show up for work tomorrow, he would lose the last thing he had. But if he did show up, he would never know the truth about his wife. He looked at Lisa, who was sleeping in the next room, unaware of his turmoil. And he made a decision. He would go to work. He would keep his job. But he wouldn't leave it at that. Sooner or later, the truth would come out. And when it did, he would be ready. On Thursday morning, Cody woke up with a heavy head and the feeling that he hadn't slept at all. The night had been filled with restless thoughts and fragments of nightmares. Lisa slept on the other side of the bed, turned away from him, and between them was a chasm that could not be bridged by words or gestures. He got up, put on his courier uniform, and left the apartment without even saying goodbye. The delivery service base greeted him with its usual chaos. Couriers crowded around the counter, receiving order lists, some arguing with the dispatcher, others checking their phones. Glenn Tucker stood off to the side with his tablet, and when he noticed Cody, a mocking smirk appeared on his face. "Well, well, our sick man is back," he said loudly so everyone could hear. "What a wonderful recovery, isn't it? I hope your walks around town helped you get better." Several couriers snorted. Cody said nothing, took his list of addresses, and went out onto the street. He didn't care. He didn't care about the ridicule, the humiliation, this miserable job. The only thing that mattered was what was happening at home, with his wife, with his life, which was falling apart. The day dragged on painfully. Cody delivered orders mechanically, paying no attention to routes, customers, or traffic jams. His thoughts were far away. He thought about Lisa, about the conversation he had overheard, about Emma's words about another man, about how his wife looked away when he asked questions. It all came together into a single picture, and that picture was disgusting. By evening, the sky was covered with heavy clouds, and the air became humid, foreshadowing rain. Cody finished another delivery and checked his phone. 2 more orders. He wanted to get them done quickly and go home, even though nothing good awaited him there. The first order was simple: pizza to a nearby residential neighborhood. The second order came in as he was finishing the first. The address was in the northern part of the city, in an upscale neighborhood where rich people lived in huge houses behind high fences. Cody loaded the bag of food, a Japanese meal from an expensive restaurant, and drove to the address. The moped rattled beneath him as he made his way through the evening traffic. The further he rode from the center, the wider the streets became, and the more greenery appeared around him. The houses here stood on large plots, surrounded by perfect lawns and ornamental trees. It was a different world, a world Cody had never lived in, and never would. He found the address he was looking for, a huge villa at the end of a quiet street lined with palm trees. The tall gate was ajar, and Cody drove into the yard. The house was impressive, a 2-story, modern-style building with huge panoramic windows and a white facade. It was surrounded by a well-kept garden, and to the side was a swimming pool lit by underwater lights that created a blue glow in the gathering twilight. Cody parked his moped at the entrance and picked up the bag with the order. He headed for the front door, but suddenly heard voices and laughter coming from the pool area. He stopped and listened. The voices were loud and cheerful, clearly belonging to people enjoying a party. Cody decided to walk around the house and find the owners by the pool. It would be faster that way. He walked along the path beside the house and came out onto the terrace, which overlooked the pool. What he saw made him freeze in his tracks. 2 people were standing in the pool, illuminated by blue light, a man and a woman. They were chest-deep in the water, hugging and kissing. The woman had her back to him, but Cody didn't need to see her face. He recognized her by her figure, her movements, her hair. It was Lisa, his wife, here, in the pool of a luxurious villa, kissing a strange man. Time stood still. Cody stood there, clutching his bag of food, staring at the scene in front of him. His brain refused to accept reality. This couldn't be true. It was a nightmare, a hallucination, anything but reality. But it was reality. Lisa turned her head and saw him. Her eyes widened in shock. She pulled away from the man, and he turned around too. He was a man in his 40s with tanned skin, a confident face, and the physique of someone who exercised regularly. There was a mocking smile on his face. "Lisa?" Cody's voice sounded hoarse, as if he had forgotten how to speak. She stepped out of the water onto the pool steps. She was wearing an expensive swimsuit that Cody had never seen before. She stood there, dripping water, looking at him without shame, without guilt, only with cold indifference. "Cody," she said in an even voice, "what are you doing here?" "What am I doing here?" He couldn't believe what he was hearing. "I brought the order. I'm working. What are you doing? What the hell are you doing here?" The man in the pool laughed. He got out of the water and stood next to Lisa, putting his arm around her waist, showing his ownership. "So this is your husband?" he asked, looking at Cody with undisguised contempt. "A courier on a moped. Lisa, you weren't exaggerating. He really is pathetic." "Who are you?" Cody took a step forward, clenching his fists. The bag of food fell to the ground. "I'm Paul Bridges." The man stood up straight, demonstrating his superiority. "The owner of this house. And as you already know, your wife's lover. Ex-wife, I suppose." The words hit him like a hammer. Cody looked at Lisa, waiting for her to say something, to refute, to explain. But she stood silently next to this man. "Lisa," his voice trembled, "tell me it's not true. Tell me it's some kind of mistake." She sighed, as if the conversation was exhausting her. "It's not a mistake, Cody. It's reality. I've been seeing Paul for 3 months. I wanted to tell you sooner, but I didn't know how. You're so pathetic that I even felt sorry for dumping you." "Pathetic?" Cody repeated, feeling something break inside him. "I work 14 hours a day. I'm trying. I'm doing everything I can so we can live." "Live?" Lisa smirked. "You call this living? We live in a dump, Cody. We have no money, no future, nothing. You're a loser. Always have been, always will be. And I need a real man. Someone like Paul, successful, rich. Someone who can give me what you can never give me." Paul Bridges kept smiling, enjoying Cody's humiliation. "Listen, buddy, don't take this personally," he said patronizingly. "Lisa is a beautiful woman. She deserves better than what you can offer her. So be a good guy and leave. Leave your order here and we'll give you a tip. Let's say $20. Is that enough?" He took a bill out of his shorts pocket and handed it to Cody like a handout to a beggar. It was the final touch, the last blow that broke what was still intact in Cody's soul. Something switched in his head. Anger, pain, humiliation, despair, all mixed into one feeling that flooded him completely. He no longer thought. He didn't analyze. He didn't try to understand. There was only rage in his mind, pure and all-consuming. His hand reached for his belt where a gun was hidden under his jacket. A Glock 19, which he had bought 2 years ago at a gun shop when robberies became frequent in their neighborhood. He never thought he would use it. He carried it as a talisman, as an illusion of security. But now the gun was in his hand, and it seemed like the only right thing to do. Paul was the first to notice the weapon. His smile disappeared. Hey, take it easy, buddy. Don't do anything stupid." But it was too late. Cody raised the gun, and his hand didn't shake. At that moment, he was completely calm, calmer than he had ever been before. "You said I was pathetic," he whispered, looking at Lisa. "You said I was a loser. Maybe you're right." The first shot rang out in the silence of the evening, tearing through the air. The bullet hit Paul in the chest, and he staggered backward, his eyes widening in shock and pain. He fell backward into the water, and the pool around him began to turn red. Lisa screamed. A piercing, animalistic scream of terror. She tried to run, but Cody was faster. The second shot caught her as she took a step toward the edge of the pool. She fell face down into the water, and a red stain spread around her body, mixing with Paul's blood. Cody stood at the edge of the pool, holding the gun in his hand, looking at what he had done. The blue water had turned red. 2 bodies floated motionless, rocking on the small waves. The silence was deafening. Reality came back to him gradually, as if someone were slowly turning on the light in a dark room. He looked at the gun in his hand and didn't recognize it. It wasn't his hand. It wasn't him. But it was him. He had just killed 2 people. He had killed his wife and her lover. Panic washed over him. His heart was beating so hard he thought it would burst out of his chest. His hands began to shake. He dropped the gun, and it fell onto the tile floor with a dull thud. Cody took a step back, then another. He couldn't take his eyes off the pool, the red water, the bodies. Then his instinct for self-preservation kicked in. "Run. You have to run. Right now." He turned and ran to his moped. His legs were tangled. The world was spinning before his eyes. He got on the moped, started it with trembling hands, and drove out of the villa's courtyard. The street was empty. No one saw, no one heard. The shots were muffled by the high walls and thick greenery. Cody drove without paying attention to the road. He didn't know where he was going. He only knew that he had to get as far away from this place as possible. He turned onto the highway and sped east, away from Atlanta, away from what had happened. His head was filled with nothing but noise, the white noise of horror and despair. He drove for several hours until he began to run out of gas. He stopped at an abandoned gas station. There were no cameras, no people, only darkness and silence. Cody sat on his moped, trembling all over, and realized there was no turning back. He had killed 2 people. His life had ended the moment he pulled the trigger. He found a cheap motel nearby, paid in cash, and locked himself in a room. He spent 3 days there, hardly leaving, not eating, not sleeping. He watched the news on TV and waited for them to find him, and they found him. On the 3rd day, in the morning, there was a knock at the door. Cody opened it and saw police officers with their guns at the ready. "Cody Humphrey, you are under arrest for double murder. You have the right to remain silent." He didn't resist. He didn't try to run. He just let them handcuff him and take him away. He was empty inside. He had done what he had done, and now he had to pay for it. The trial was quick. There was enough evidence. Witnesses saw his moped at the villa, cameras caught him on the road, and the gun was found at the crime scene with his fingerprints on it. His lawyer tried to argue that it was a crime of passion, that Cody had been driven to despair, but it didn't matter. The jury returned a verdict without hesitation. Guilty. The judge read the sentence in a cold, indifferent voice. "Cody Humphrey, you are found guilty of first-degree murder of 2 people. The court sentences you to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole." Cody sat in the courtroom and felt nothing. His life didn't end when the judge announced the sentence. It ended that evening, by the pool at Paul Bridges' villa, when he saw his wife in the arms of another man. Everything that happened after that was just a formality. He was led away in handcuffs, and the last thing he saw were the empty benches of the courtroom. No one came to the trial, no one cried, no one was waiting for him. He was completely alone, just like he always was.